this area, as we say, is quite a beneficiary of slavery. Just raising the issue of where you stand on reparations, basically. If you believe there's a case for it.
I was going to say, I think it's important to deal with it, but I don't know if you can do it in 5 minutes. But yes, I think it's very important because we were talking about the, sorry, it's related. Talking about the cotton famine, and once I read a beautiful story in a newspaper, sorry, Manchester Guardian, and it was when was Abraham Lincoln? When there was the workers 1862, yeah, I think it was around that date, and there was an article about a missionary school in I think South Africa, who had sent money to their relief fund here for the cotton mills worker of Lancashire, and I thought it was a beautiful story in terms of solidarity and between workers around the world, between people understanding each other and seeing themselves as connected. And sometimes I feel, it's personal, it's a shame that we cannot think in those terms today. And I think that the real problem with retribution is because we don't see what we've got. We don't necessarily appreciate what we have today and how we got it. And we can't even say thank you. To the millions of people who died for us, regardless, of background, but specifically because we're talking about the transatlantic slave trade, Africa, and as well people in Asia, China, who made our empire, I guess. And but I think we should be spending time thinking about ways of saying thank you and giving something, I don't even say something back I don't know, it's really difficult to find the right words, but there's something we need to be doing now because I think we're not at peace with ourselves. We're not at peace with our cultures. We're struggling, we're fighting, and we need to deal with that question and feel confident enough to do it.
When you're talking about that, it just makes me think of John Bright, who was a millionaire in Rochdale and MP for Manchester and Birmingham, separate occasions. And there's a lot of contradiction, obviously, with individuals, and Bright's one of them, because he was a mill owner weaving slave-grown cotton, but he was also anti-slavery and supported the northern states, lobbied Parliament, made some amazing speeches about slavery and the need to abolish it. One thing that we did kind of uncover while we were doing the research for our exhibitions in Rochdale over the last year was that he actually paid his workers during the cotton famine, even though they were out of work. Now, it cost him a huge amount of money. So his kind of moral stance, as it were, and he was a Quaker, right? So I suppose he had religious reasons as well for the anti-slavery. But his moral stance cost him pretty much his fortune. Because not only was he financially supporting the struggle in the Civil War by sending armaments to the north, he was also paying his own workers while they weren't working. So there just shows you somebody, talking about how moral we are these days, and how we look after each other or not, as the case may be. It's a complicated story.
I think the most important thing about reparations is the fact that the British government made reparations. They made reparations in 1833. They made reparations of 20 million to the slave owners. And that's how warped this is. I think that the most important thing about reparations is we have the debate about reparations. And I suppose the other thing I think is that actually you can't, well, maybe you can, but I think the most important thing would be not to give reparations to individuals, descendants of slaves necessarily. I think the important thing would be to set up trusts, educational trusts, of different kinds of trusts, so that you move towards a different kind of world. And that, there is the British government, if it paid 20 million to the slave owners in reparations for each of the slaves, which is now worth, I think about, if my figures are right, about 2 billion in today's money, then those, there's no problem in a sense with setting something up. I don't think giving individuals money is the way to do it. I think the way to do it would be to think about ways in which we can make the world which exists because of slavery a better world.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I don't think we can make reparation because we haven't stopped taking. As a country, we have not stopped taking from the other countries, from Africa in particular, where there's oil. We're not paying proper prices for oil. People are not allowed to set their own prices. So until we actually sort out, or actually, we're being rather selfish here, and we shouldn't own everything, and we don't need everything. Until that point, I don't think there is going to be any thought about reparation at all.
I think it was Malcolm X, an American speaker, who was quite outspoken on these issues. He was assassinated, by a fact. But for reparations, he requested the state of Carolina